This race not as wet, so we might see slightly different performances from the different cars based on the changed conditions, but some lovely cars on that field. Good healthy grid size as well, 22 cars, 5 seconds to go before we see them all racing. Red lights coming on the gantry. And the engine, oh, a big jump start from Colin Calder. Red lights go out now, Colin Calder left standing. That's an unfortunate mistake from him. Nicky Dixon and John Marshall going 3 wide with the Lotus Excel. John Marshall, a man not short of bravery when it comes to driving in motorsport events, and he's made up 3 or 4 places at least off the grid. He is charging forwards as John Marshall. He's alongside Colin Calder already as they go into McIntyre's, and he is through, but it's the 2 V8 engines from the front row of the grid are leading the race. That's is Andrew Graham and Barry Easthoe. Then it's Jimmy Crowe and Adam Kinman next up as they all sprint along the back straight. The number 7 car as well, the Lotus 7 by Cian Bailey, has made up multiple places in the first few corners of the race, so there's some tremendous overtaking acts going on here. We'll see what the order looks like as they get around now to the hairpin, but it's Triumph TR8 ahead of MGB GT V8 at the head of the field. Then it's Jimmy Crowe's Reliant, excuse me. And then next up we have Ian Mitchell's Nova, which is doing a bit of giant killing here because it's ahead of Adam Kinman's Mighty Rover, but the Rover on straight line grunt gets past. But look at John Marshall, he is charging along. The conditions now are allowing him to use the power that he's got. He's not as traction limited as he was in the previous race, so John Marshall already about to pass Ian Mitchell into McIntyre's. It's a tight squeeze and he's not quite made it through, but it was worth a shot. But he is already up to what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 position in that Lotus. That's a tremendous opening lap from John Marshall. He started in 13th. He's already passed half the cars ahead of him, and he's lining up to pass Ian Mitchell's Nova next. Into view they come from Clark Corner along the straight. The leader's already at the hairpin, and we've got the Triumph TR8 stretching out to a bigger and bigger advantage. 1 minute, well, we'll see what the best lap times are as they come through. So the completion of lap 2, a 62.978 for Andrew Graham, puts him 4 seconds ahead of Barry Easthoe, who's still in second place ahead of Jimmy Crowe, Adam Kinman and John Marshall. Colin Calder is also charging through the back now after his misfortune at the start, and he is ahead now of the 32 car of Alistair Coates. That puts him up into 7th position, and ahead of him, 2 places ahead, is John Marshall in 5th, who is absolutely charging around. John Marshall is lapping in around the 1 minute 6 bracket, and that is fast enough, just about fast enough to catch Adam Kinman. We'll see how the lap times look at the end of this lap to see how they compare. I don't know if John Marshall can get much further than that, because I don't think he's got the power to really push these V8 cars, but certainly he's left everybody else well behind. He's a former champion, of course, in classic sports and saloons, going back many years when he had some Ford Escort Mark 1 and Mark 2 cars which he raced. And over the timing line he comes. 62.9 is the fastest lap of the race with Andrew Graham. John Marshall's done a 65.2. He's lapping quicker than Jimmy Crowe, but not as quick as Adam Kinman. So this is interesting. He could catch Jimmy Crowe. Adam Kinman, though, was very slow out of McIntyre's there, and Jimmy Crowe gained a few advantages. Jimmy Crowe is in 3rd position at the moment, Adam Kinman in 4th in the Rover, Jimmy Crowe in the red Reliant Scimitar, and John Marshall charging along behind them, and he's catching one but not both, if that makes sense. But behind John Marshall, here comes Colin Calder. Colin Calder is going at a similar pace to John Marshall. They're very equally matched, these two. And the little Ginetta, Colin Calder, will certainly be figuring in the rear view mirror now of John Marshall's car. John Marshall will see him coming, certainly be aware of him right behind him in the hairpin now. And Colin Calder, if he gets a good exit speed from the hairpin, might just start to catch, yes, he has more than caught John Marshall. He's passed John Marshall just before they get to John Marshall's Beatson's Bridge. And John Marshall has to follow that Ginetta down through the twists and turns of the start of the lap. Meanwhile, Ian Mitchell's Nova is going down through the field at the moment. He's getting passed by a number of cars. Obviously did a bit of giant killing in the super wet conditions, but the car not quite as competitive in the dry conditions. And that is the 32 car of Alistair Coates, and Craig Houston's Lotus have gone past him now. So they go up to 7th and 8th positions. Now the leader is building a huge lead. He was 8.8 seconds in front last time through. That's Andrew Graham. He's just set another best lap of the race, fastest lap at 62.47, and that puts him now a fairly colossal 11 seconds in the lead. But the battle coming through the hairpin now is between Alistair Coates and Craig Houston for 7th, and as they come out the hairpin side by side, both fighting for traction, that's brought Ian Mitchell back into place. We've got a 3-car battle there as Craig Houston crosses the line in 7th, Alistair Coates 8th, and Ian Mitchell 9th. They go into the Beatson's Bridge. Straight line speed performance has left Ian Mitchell a little bit behind the two of them, and it's the Craig Houston Lotus that has the advantage at the moment in that little group, 7th position. Now, just looking at lap times, John Marshall is going round in 65.2s. Colin Calder's flying 63.3s he's got into now. And then we've got Jimmy Crowe on 65.6. So, and he is down behind Adam Kinman now, Jimmy Crowe in 4th position. So John Marshall potentially could catch Jimmy Crowe before the end of the race. Jimmy Crowe's performance seems to, in fact, just as I'm saying it, he's almost there. Colin Calder and John Marshall both, we've got a car on its side down at the exit of Leslie, so we're going to get yellow flags, probably safety car here. We've got Marshall's on track, driver is out the car, but yeah, safety car boards are showing, and the car has rolled down the hill at Leslie's. Colin Calder, I was talking about, and John Marshall were charging along. They're about to catch Adam Kinman, but obviously things have taken a slightly different turn. The number 3 car is one of the Fiestas, is the car that's gone over, and it looks like the driver is being led away to safety. Marshall's just been cautious, a wee sprinkle of a fire extinguisher to make sure there's nothing about to ignite, but the driver's safely out the car and standing at the side of the gravel trap with the marshals and the medical crews there already as well, so hopefully no harm done there to the driver. Car's obviously taken a bit of a hit, so that's the number 3 car on its side in the gravel. That is Michael Anderson, and that is the Ford Fiesta that's not an XR2. So we've got a number of Ford Fiestas in the race. They're all XR2s apart from that one, but luckily Michael is out of the car. The car, I can only see it from the rear side on. It will have taken a little bit of damage obviously rolling there, but the good news is it's rolled in the gravel, and that's a relatively soft landing. So and the driver, as I say, Michael Anderson, safely out of the car, looks perfectly fine at the side of the track, chatting to the rescue team, and I think that'll be well, we had 5 laps to go. It's a red flag, yes, so there's too much to do to recover that car under safety car conditions. So unfortunately a red flag just when things were beginning to hot up with Colin Calder and John Marshall working their way through towards the front of the field, but sadly that's a red flag. So I think we'll get a restart with 5 laps to go. If it had been 2 or 3 laps to go, I think they'd have declared the result, but I think we are going to get a restart. Yes, they're waving them on to the grid. So it looks like we're going to go for a restart in a few minutes' time, but once that car's been recovered. But should be a fairly quick recovery process, because Well, I can't really see from here how many wheels are left on the car, so we'll leave the marshals to do their job. Driver will probably be taken to the medical centre, which as soon as you do something a little bit exciting like rolling a car or hitting the barriers or something, the driver's usually invited to the medical centre for a quick check over, but he looks perfectly fine from here. So recovery teams are all in place. I think they're still being fairly cautious of the car. I think there's a bit of steam coming off it because they must have holed the radiator and things. They're just making sure that nothing's going to ignite with a bit of fire extinguisher foam into the underside of it. The car's lying on its left-hand side, but the driver, as I say, safely out of the car. And the flatbed truck already on its way down to lift the car to safety. So a bit of a delay now. We're going to have to wait till the safety car brings the field round to the grid again, and then we'll get everybody lined up and moved into position for the potential restart. So the bit that was getting interesting was Colin Calder was up to 5th position, closing in at a rate of knots on Jimmy Crowe, going about 2 seconds a lot quicker, and he was pulling John Marshall along with him. So Colin Calder's ultimate quickest lap is a lot quicker than John Marshall's, but the pace they were now running at was almost identical. In fact, John Marshall in the last lap they completed was the quicker of the two. So that's going to be interesting to see. Once the race restarts, can they start to catch Jimmy Crowe? Jimmy Crowe's car seems to be very, very quick in the opening part of a race, and then the performance seems to tail off a little bit. And that's what I think Colin Calder and John Marshall were taking advantage of. If we've got a restart, that maybe resets everything, and then there isn't a big advantage. So the car's getting reformed on the grid, and there'll be a few minutes delay. So Kenny, I don't know if you're around anywhere paddock-wise.
Yeah, I'm just standing down here in pit lane, just waiting on the cars to head back out on circuit. So doesn't look to be any damage on the cars that are sitting here in the pit lane. They're just looking to go back out, but there is some cars just assembling on the grid behind the safety car. Yeah,
I think the incident that happened there, happened on its own. I don't think there was anybody else involved. So it's just a question of how quickly they can get the car back onto 4 wheels, towed out to within reach of the flatbed truck, and then on its way again. So coming up after this, we've got Mini Cooper Cup final. The Mini's already assembling in the holding area behind the pit lane there. Then we've got Legends final and Superlap Scotland final. So 3 events to come after this one, but the Marshal's doing a great job of sorting everybody out into order there. You can see Craig Houston's Lotus being guided up to slot in behind John Marshall's Beatson's liveried Lotus. Yeah, John Marshall's had a great collection of cars on track over the years, so this is probably the smallest car I've ever seen him in. He's usually in oh no, it wouldn't be, because he raced Legends for a while, going back about 15-20 years ago. He was racing Legends, and his son Ross, who goes rallying with him as well, they both raced in Legends at one point, and then Ross did he did Fiestas, I think. He did the Toka package. He was in the Cooper S's at one point. So yeah, they've done quite a lot of things between the two of them. Great supporters of racing here. But John sitting there in the 58 car, and sitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in the queue. So a few drivers obviously feeling the heat, because it's heavy work taking these cars around the circuit, and once you're stopped, you're expected then to get out the car and feel refreshed in the fresh air, but of course they're not getting out the car at the moment. There's all that heat is built up in the car, and they're just having to sit there and soak it all up. So a number of them sitting with the doors open. I'm sure, Kenny, if you were brave enough, you could venture onto the grid and have a chat with 1 or 2 of them, but I don't know if you're brave enough to get out there, or where you are relative to the grid.
I don't want to get my knuckles wrapped.
Right. So. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, I think also you've got to watch in these conditions for the cars steaming up as well.
Yes, in closed cars like this, it's always difficult in the rain. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful remedies for it, but I think the cleaner your windscreen, the better chance you've got of it not steaming up. So that's the first thing, and then secondly, you can get various fog repellents and things. I'm always dubious about whether they really work or not, but a lot of drivers swear by Rain-X. Other products I'm sure are available that do the same thing, but to me, I think the best thing is to make sure your windscreen inside is absolutely clean. So there's some good things on the market, but I won't start advertising.
Yeah. But yeah, the cars look pretty pristine out there. It doesn't look as if there's been anybody in the gravel at all. So yeah, I think they're all good to go, and they're just starting them up now. So I don't think we're too far away unless the car's not been recovered yet.
No, it has been recovered already, and I'm amazed. The speed of that recovery is incredible. So the stricken car is already parked at McRae Corner at the end of the rallycross loop, so this the shortest distance they could get it away to safety. A couple of course cars and, to come round back into their places, and then we should be going in a couple of minutes' time. So just on that topic of windscreens and things fogging up, you're a motorcycle racer, Kenny, so what did you used to do in the wet? What was your secret for keeping the visor clear?
Well, mine was actually to tape over my nose and try and keep it closed away from the elements, and always try and keep your hair dry.
Right.
Before you put your helmet on, don't get your hair wet. Yeah, always have a hat or something on. Don't lift your visor when you go to the grid. Just silly little things like that could make a big difference. I remember racing at the Ulster at Dundrod once, and I stupidly went out in dries. It rained at the back end of the circuit. I had to change the tyres on the grid, and I popped my visor open, and it got damp inside, so I had to race 6 laps round there with a foggy visor. So I had to lift the visor up every so often, try and clear it.
That sounds like a struggle when you're trying to keep a motorcycle under control at the same time. It's not like you've got a free hand to do things like that.
No, it's not. No. But they used to race cars around there as well, didn't they?
That's right, yes. Sterling Moss made his name. That was his first big breakthrough, was racing a D-type Jaguar around that circuit against, I can't remember who the superstar opposition was, but he certainly kind of outperformed the car, put it that way, and that was him on his road to superstardom. So
rescue vehicles just making their way up the straight now, just getting themselves back in position. I think we're going to be good to go in a couple of minutes.
Yes, we are. I think the track looks clear. Marshals are all back at post, so I think it's just a question of getting the vehicles back in place, and then we're showing on the timing computer 6 laps to go, because the red flag came out with 5 to go. They always count back 1 and line up based on the positions counting back. So you can see the 1 or 2 cars at slightly creative angles on the grid, but they'll get filtered into the lineup, and it'll be a single file restart I'm expecting to see behind the safety car. They may surprise me and go for a grid, but I think it's going to be a single file restart. So that will give us 6 laps of racing to go. Andrew Graham then in the lead. He was 14 seconds in the lead, but of course he's going to be no seconds in the lead now. This actually gives a great opportunity to Colin Calder and John Marshall, who were starting to close down Jimmy Crow's red Reliant Scimitar car 21. Jimmy Crow in turn was lapping just a little bit slower than Adam Kinmad ahead of him, and I think the top 3 now are lapping at a pace where, without the safety car queuing them all up again, Colin Calder and John Marshall probably wouldn't have caught them, but they have caught them now because they're right in the queue next to the safety car. So there could be, with a couple of bits of brave overtaking at the right moment in the right place, we could see Colin Calder and John Marshall upsetting the normal results a little bit in their little Ginetta and Lotus sports cars. These are very nimble little cars. They're ideal for the twists and turns of Knockhill. The cars ahead of them, all much bigger, which is fine because they've got big engines, they're powerful cars, but lightweight is very important in a car. That's why we've got Alpines in the Knockhill track experiences now, because they're fantastic around this circuit. And when the road is going up and down and twisting and turning, weight is very, very important. So that is where Colin Calder and John Marshall could just, on agility around the track, gain a little advantage here. But we still basically have half the race to go. 6 laps to go means we've got half the race to go, and that means that we should be on for a good contest towards the checkered flag. So the safety car lights have gone out, so it's going to be a standard safety car restart. That's caught a few people out because there's some big gaps in the queue here. Colin Calder especially who comes from a sprinting and hill climbing background, probably not so used to racing, has left a massive gap between himself and Jimmy Crowe. He's realised what's happening now. I think John Marshall's maybe given him some non-highway code hand signals to carry him along, and they've just about caught them up, but they left a huge gap there. That was an opportunity lost from Colin Calder and John Marshall there. But anyway, we have a clean restart, and with now, well, the computer's just corrected to 4 laps to go, and Andrew Graham is in the lead down from Barry Easthoe, Adam Kinwood, Jimmy Crowe, John Marshall, Craig Houston. That's the order, and they all head into turn 1 now. And yeah, this is going to be interesting, the second, third, fourth battle.
Yeah, 10-second penalty for car number 55 as well, so yeah, Colin Calder has got a 10-second penalty.
Ooh, well that could be for the jump start, because he took off at the start just a little bit before everybody else, then he stopped and corrected himself, and he probably lost more time as a result of that, but the fact is he jumped out of position, he wasn't correctly positioned at the start, so you get a 10-second penalty. So it's a bit of a disappointment for him, because he's driven very well other than that, and he's actually catching Jimmy Crowe at the moment, sprinting away from John Marshall and Craig Houston.
Yeah, clear line of dry tarmac beginning to appear up the home straight.
Yeah, that's going to make it spicy for the minis who like going offline to overtake. They're coming up next. But at the moment we've got a nice little V8 battle between the MGB GT in second place and the Rover Vitesse in third, and now the Ginetta of Colin Calder has passed Jimmy Crowe, and he gets ahead into fourth overall on the road, but of course carrying that 10-second penalty. But let's call it as it is on the road, and then we can work out the penalty later. John Marshall now closing in onto the back of Jimmy Crowe as well. He's seen the opportunity there, he's seen what Colin Calder achieved, so John Marshall fancies a bit of that, and he's let's see what he's doing lap time wise, see if he's going to catch Jimmy Crowe. Yes, he is going fast enough. He's about half a second a lap quicker than Jimmy Crowe at the moment, so he's going fast enough to catch him. We've got 4 or 3.5 laps remaining, so let's see if John Marshall can do that in the little Lotus chasing down the Reliant Scimitar, followed by another Lotus, the Lotus XL. So we've got 3 plastic cars together heading towards the hairpin. Meanwhile, in the hairpin, oh, big slide from Adam Kinman. He's just drifted it a little bit too wide, caught the edge of the gravel trap, lost all his momentum, and that has allowed Colin Calder to slingshot through into third place overall, ahead of the big Rover. And Colin Calder's driving an absolute blinder here. It's a pity he got that penalty, because who knows how far up the field he could get. It's a fantastic drive. John Marshall getting a little bit closer to Jimmy Crowe then. Jimmy Crowe defending his 4th position. A lock up from Adam Kinman ahead of them going into his laps, and Adam Kinman struggling a little bit with the big Rover at the moment, trying to hold on to the coattails of Colin Calder, but not quite managing it. And Colin Calder with his 10-second penalty on the timing computer is showing in 6th, but in reality he's actually third on the road at the moment, but he's going to finish 6th as things stand. But things can still change. We've still got 3 laps to go, and the leader at the hairpin is about to make it 2 laps to go. Great drive by Andrew Graham in changeable conditions. He's just done the fastest lap of the race as well, a 60.911. Make that a 60.327 as he crosses the line once again. So he's flying. He's 2 seconds a lap quicker than anybody else. And Colin Calder now chasing down second place man Barry Easthoe. Barry Easthoe lapping in 62.7 last time round, a little bit quicker than, or a little bit slower in fact than Colin Calder. Colin Calder's lapping almost a second faster, so he could actually end up second on the road, but he'll be down 6th or 7th in the end result, unfortunately. But it's a fascinating battle to watch on the road though. He may or may not know he's got a 10-second penalty. It may have been put out on a notice for him, but whether he noticed it or not is another thing entirely. So Barry Easthoe in second, aware of Colin Calder holding in behind him. Then Adam Kinman in third on the timing screens. Jimmy Crowe 4th in car 21. Then John Marshall is now coming under some pressure from Craig Houston. So John Marshall's Lotus Elan, Craig Houston's Lotus XL. The Lotus XL pulls out into the right hand side to try and go past into the hairpin, and John Marshall just slipped a little bit wide, and the Lotus XL gets through. So Craig Houston overtakes John Marshall going through the hairpin as they head on to the final lap of the race. So this is going to be interesting. Can John Marshall respond to that in the little Beatson's Lotus going under the Beatson's Bridge? John Marshall, will he try and pull out and pass the bigger Lotus XL? No, he doesn't. So the Lotus XL heads down the hill. Craig Houston driving very well indeed. The car seems to be coming to him now after the there was a bit of a handful in the wet earlier on, but as the track gets dry and drier, that car really is beginning to come alive. Now he's going to get delayed behind the Ginetta at the back of the field. That's going to allow John Marshall to close in a little bit again as they come out the chicane. But I think Craig Houston might have done just about enough to fend off John Marshall now as they come into Clark Corner for the final time, looking to see the leader exiting the hairpin. And Andrew Graham then takes the checkered flag, makes it 2 out of 2. Fantastic drive in the Triumph TR8. Now, who's going to come home second? Well, actually, this is interesting. It's a drag race to the line between Colin Calder and Barry Eastoe, and Colin Calder crosses the line first, but of course Barry Eastoe actually gets the position because he's got Colin Calder's carrying a 10-second penalty, but he would have finished second were it not for that penalty. So Andrew Graham, then Barry Eastoe second place, Adam Kinman third, Jimmy Crowe fourth, then Craig Houston in the Lotus Excel in fifth position, just ahead of John Marshall and Colin Calder. So that's the top 7. Stephen Sadler brings his Peugeot 205 GTI home in 8th, and have Alistair Coates' Escort and Richard Merrill in the number 77 Alfa Romeo Giulia. So a fantastic race that was, really kept us in suspense all the way through, and a great variety of cars as well. In terms of class winners, Andrew Graham, as well as winning the race overall, wins Class E. Adam Kinman wins what looks like Class I on the computer screen. Jimmy Crowe wins Class G. Craig Houston wins Class B. There's lots of classes in here. And then Class A is won by Ian Mitchell in the Nova. And then XR class won by Paul Green. And I think that's all the classes covered. So quite a lot of trophies to be handed out. We'll just concentrate on first, second and third overall, which is going to be Andrew Graham, Barry Eastoe and Adam Kinman. It'll be interesting to hear from Barry Eastoe because, of course, he might not know that Colin Calder, who finished second on the road, is carrying a 10-second penalty. So we'll see how that story unfolds. So you need to watch for that, Kenny, when you get to the interview area. Colin Calder might be expecting to park there in second, but he'll be ushered away with that jump start penalty. So it'll be Andrew Graham, Barry Eastoe and Adam Kinman, 78.